Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting. I'm back with my good friend Amy Babinchek. Hey Amy, good morning.
Good morning, James.
All right. How are you doing this morning? How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good because I'm here at the boat. I've actually been here all week, and you and I are recording this via my new Starlink Mini. So, yeah, it's working out really well. I have been waiting for that Mini because you can just slide it into your backpack and take it anywhere you want.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's working great, and I'm really excited to have it now. Now, weather-wise, because we have to do a little weather talk. It's very smoky. Yeah, the Manitoba is on fire, and I heard something disturbing. It said there's 111 fires, and 100 of them they know were set by human activity.
Yeah, that's
And it's a really, really weird number to me. I don't know if they're investigating whether any of that is intentional or accidental. It seems like 100 accidental fires in an area that remote, because this isn't like down in Manitoba near the populated areas. This is way up in the northern end of Canada
Hmm.
where this stuff is coming down. So that is something I'm going to watch because we've been really suffering from that smoke here.
Yeah, it's drifted down to the Midwest, Nebraska as well. There's been air quality alerts all last week, and it's still hazy down here. It looks like it's improved a little bit, but as the wind picks up, kind of blows it out of here. But it is no fun. It is no fun. And it's
Yeah.
a beautiful week here. We got a little rain last week, but over the weekend. But it's going to be sunny and 85 all week long. So
Nice.
for that perfect boating weather,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Sorry, I'm laughing because when I envision Nebraska, I don't envision perfect boating.
Yes, true.
Although except in your backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's surprising. There's some great lakes, some big ones too, and a lot of little ones. And this is a man-made lake that is, 600 plus acres, so good sized lake. But it's, beautiful, beautiful lake, lots of coves and, fun recreation lake for sure. Just beautiful. And there are a little bit of hills and a lot of beautiful homes around the area, so it makes it nice. But, so, hey, there's a lot of things going on in the news, but before we dig into that, let me start off with the question of the week. Let me tell you what we had come in. So we got a question for one of our listeners, and their question is it okay to borrow money to help your business grow? Is it okay to borrow money to help your business grow? What comes to mind when you hear that question?
I tell you, my instant gut reaction to that question is no. Just but because I see too many people make mistakes by borrowing money to help their business. They think, well, if I just borrow some money and I make this great investment in, the $40,000 that the sales and marketing firm wants, then, I'm going to take my business to the next level. And that's probably not the case. But uh, so so smart money is no, don't borrow money for that kind of stuff. However, then my brain says, right, so my first gut instinct is no. And then but I also have a personal aversion to debt, so that doesn't help any.
Yeah.
But the my second thing is, well, but actually, if you're borrowing it for an M&A situation,
Mhm.
it's actually much less risky because you have some numbers backing. This is how much revenue I'm going to be taking in. This is how I'm going to pay it back. This is what my net profit's going to be. You've
Yep.
got a lot better certainty behind that if you do it right.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm right where you are. There's kind of a fork in the road. It's like, well, it depends on what you want to use the money for, you know.
Right.
You're going to invest in some marketing firms, grandiose $100,000 plan that they're not guaranteeing any kind of results. It's marketing today. Again, we've talked about this post COVID. It's harder and harder and harder to get any kind of meaningful results. It's
Mm.
really expensive, and there's only a few of those firms out there that are doing a really good job, and most of them are struggling and failing. So be careful with that. And if you wanna hire a new employee, that's a maybe, but, you don't wanna be using that money for fixed expenses, or trying to, consolidate, debt. I don't like that kind of stuff, but back to your point, if it's to acquire another business and buy someone's book of business, I think that's a great use of funds, and that's more of a sure thing than anything else that we've talked about. So I would say yes, if it's on buying another business, something like that. And then other than that, you just have to really scrutinize what the use of funds would be. It's not cheap to borrow money. Interest rates are a little high right now, so you just want to be very frugal with what you do with it. So um, that would be my vote. I think we agree on that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
All right. So good stuff. So, hey, there's a lot in the news. We've got a new CEO for Kaseya. I don't know if you saw that, Rania Sukar. At first, I thought she was an existing employee, but it looked like she was hired from the outside. I think she came from MailChimp. She was the general manager of MailChimp.
Yeah, she came out of Intuit, and then she was over at, MailChimp, which Intuit owns.
Yeah.
And, I it was a surprise, right? There was not a lot of, "Oh, here's who's on Kaseya's short list," and it didn't seem like it was a long drawn out process, or they were really, really good at keeping it quiet.
Yeah.
Everyone's a bit surprised by this. Um, I'll tell you my very blunt first reaction to this was nobody knows how to nickel and dime a customer better than Intuit. And,
Wow. Wow.
that I mean, it's true, right? They're the kings of subscription, and what's changed over at Mailchimp in the recent couple past years is a lot more options for you to click and buy and add to your subscription a little bit at a time. So, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, this costs a little bit more money. Oh, that costs a little bit more money. That's what I saw. There's really been a transformation at Mailchimp into that sort of model.
Yeah, that's a great
And
that's a great observation. I didn't think that.
yeah, so she's going to be bringing that over to Kaseya. Whether she implements something like that, I don't know. They've gone in. They're going to market with that low price package. That they've got now. I think they have three of them.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of little add-ons to it to add revenue to the company.
Yeah, she's always been revenue focused in her past
Mhm.
positions for sure. I'll tell you my first thought when I saw the news break this past week was, "Oh, Fred's replacement." Now, mind you, Kaseya doesn't have a very good reputation. Their reputation's very tough. They're hard to negotiate with. They won't let you out of contracts, and it's an expensive platform, big picture. Um, it kinda seems like my community is half divided, but most of them, honestly, most of them don't like Kaseya. That's where good companies go to die after they get acquired is what most people in my circle say. But then I've got some Kaseya fans that run their business on it and they love it. So I
Right.
don't wanna knock it, but I thought it was a softer, maybe they're gonna do a softer approach and they're trying to embrace the channel, with a female leader. At first, that was what I was thinking, but after hearing your observation, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think we probably do have that bias when we, see a new female lead coming in that maybe there's gonna be a image change at the company, but I don't see that necessarily being the case. I'm glad to see another female CEO. We've lost a bunch in recent years, so I'm
Yep.
glad to see somebody else coming up.
Yep.
It's someone who isn't known to our industry very well, actually. So
Mhm.
we'll see how she embraces the MSP community.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of big events going on right now. I think
Mhm.
PAX 8 is going on this week. We had one of ConnectWise. Um,
Connectwise Secure.
okay, that's right.
Yep.
That one was last week, right?
Yep. Waiting to hear the news on that one. So Connectwise, get busy with your news releases. We want to talk about it.
Yeah, we want to see some big news come out of these events because these are big events. It seems like everybody we know in the channel from social media is all on their way or on their way back, from one of those conferences. So keep us posted of what's going on out there. Uh,
Yeah, or both. I do see a lot of people traveling directly from
yeah,
ConnectWise Secure over to PAX 8, which is interesting. And then Apple has their partner conference coming up this week as well. So we should see a lot of stuff coming down the news real
yeah,
quick.
that's good. That's good. So our good friend Dave Sobel over at Business of Tech, he actually had a really interesting article, and you and I talk a lot about differentiating ourselves as MSPs, standing out from the crowd,
Mhm.
becoming better or, you know, different than our competition. I think that's really important. He had an interesting article that he had just uh, listed this past week. What sets top MSPs apart in 2025? And that was an interesting read. And really, the summary was it just isn't just the tools. A lot of people talk about their stack of tools or tool sets that they use. So, I think that could be viewed as maybe a differentiator. He got really into more of the AI, uh,
Mhm.
what AI is doing in the business. You and I've talked a lot about that and probably agree there. But let me ask you a question on this. What else do you think MSPs need to be doing today to differentiate themselves, to keep us to make us appear bigger, better, stand out from other competitors in the marketplace?
Well, I have what's probably a pretty radical view on this. Um, you know, in Dave's article, he highlights that 2025 is a a really strong growth year for these top MSPs. When he says top MSPs, he's not talking about anybody that you and I typically work with. He's talking about the several $100 million MSPs that are out there.
Yeah,
The top by revenue, right?
big ones. Yeah.
And they've heavily invested in AI and automation, and that is selling. They're coming in as low cost providers, selling, really automated type services, and they're having success at that. When I talk to I'll call them the real world MSPs, the people you generally think of when you think of MSPs and the type of work they're doing, they're not heavily invested in AI, and they have not automated their services that they're delivering, and they're struggling to get new sales. I'm really hearing that it's not that the economy is bad, it's not that the customers don't want what you're selling, but they're unsure. It's not as easy to sell it anymore as it once was.
Mm.
They're looking for something different. And something different, I think, does have a lot to do with AI. They're looking for people more who can deliver business direction and technical leadership as what's not impressing them is fast help desk calls in a super secure environment. That's not impressing them because they know they're smart enough to know pretty much every MSP is going to offer them that. So what they're looking for, they're really basing that decision now on what your unique proposition is. They're looking for guidance, and that's what's selling today. Traditional MSP services are struggling to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always said, it's really important for MSPs to step in a technology leadership role and understand what your client's business goals and objectives are and then build a technology plan to bridge that gap, to help that business, meet and exceed their business goals with the use of technology. And a lot of MSPs, I mean, it sounds simple at the surface to just say that, but that consulting that, you talked about the opinion, their expertise, that's really important, that we, bridge that gap. And then, AI is just one of many tools that can help you with those things. But
Well,
anyway,
what I think AI can help you with is AI can help you automate some of the stuff that you're spending time on today so that you have the capacity to be able to work on what's actually important to your client. Right?
yeah,
Clients want help with what their business goals are. They don't they're not impressed by your expertise on the endpoint device anymore. They feel pretty confident in their expertise on the endpoint device,
mhm,
and
mhm.
they know how to install an app. Most people do today. It's not just not as much of a big deal. Not They're not intimidated by that anymore. They want somebody who can help them reach their goals. And so if you focus on that, I think you'll find the sales much easier. You do have to have the staff in place to be able to talk at that level, to understand that focus. It also means that you're not going to have as much of a cookie cutter stamp across all clients, right?
Yes.
Each client's going to have their own goals that they're working toward, and so you're going to have to tweak your offering
Yep.
to accommodate each of them, and that's kind of new territory for a lot of MSPs. James, I even forgot to share the links with you this morning. Um, but I actually wrote two articles in the last 2 weeks. One last week, one the week before, kind of on this topic. One is about PKIs and what you should be measuring, other than how fast is my help desk and how many tickets did I close. Right? What
On
business? What
KPIs?
Yeah? What business related KPIs can you track? Right?
Got it. Okay. Yep. No.
Uh, Yeah, and then the other one I just wrote the other day, and it's about really actually it's about this exact topic that we're talking about. So, if you go over to third tier, I have some thoughts about you can just go to the main page, thirdtier.net, and I talk about how the business outcomes is I think I've worded it. The business outcomes is the new North Star for MSPs, right? Meaning that that's the thing you should be driving your service toward. Business outcomes. And by that, I mean your client's business outcomes. That's what's going to set you apart. And that's what's going to get us back to that point where it's an easy sale to the customer when we walk in.
Yep. I like that. Those are great, great ideas. And um, I just want to encourage all our listeners, make sure you find something that you feel proud, that you are confident, that allows you to stand head and shoulders something. You've got to find something in your business that you can use as that foundational marketing message, like your elevator pitch of how do you stand out and how are you different or better than the competition. So
Right.
you all should be working on that. That's important. Well, Amy, yeah, give me the links. I'll see if we can add those to the show notes and get those up on the site when we post the podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so all sorts of other things going on. There's a couple. Here was another interesting article that caught my eye. It was a LinkedIn article, and it said Americans setting 401k records. So I read through that, and it really was per Fidelity, Americans are saving a record 14.3% of their income, which was up from 13.5% just 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's really good news. As you and I were talking before the show, not everybody has a 401k.
Right.
So it's still a mixed bag. If you have a 401k, you're saving more than you used to.
Mhm.
But there's still I think you had a statistic off the top of your head, 70 some percent of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck. Those
Right.
people probably don't have 401ks even offered to them at their job.
Mhm.
Or if they do, they're not participating because they're so stretched.
Gosh,
But
gosh.
the people that can make it, and I am heartened by one thing. James, when you and I were in school 30 plus years ago, they were telling us, as soon as you get out of school, you get that job, you should start
Yep.
putting money away, right? It was 10% was the advice then, right? Put 10% of your money
Right.
away. And I think the advice now is something more like 20%, put 20% of your paycheck, aside. And it's taken all these years, but I've been very heartened to see that young people are actually doing it.
Right.
Now, James, you've got young people.
Hmm.
How are they? Are they
They're
savers?
they're doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing it. They're doing it. So, they also like the finer things in life, so they've got nice properties and cars and things like that, but they're really good savers, so I think that put them in a position to enjoy those things,
Mhm.
but yeah, this article warmed my heart because most of the time you see those negative trends, like credit card debt at an all-time high,
Right.
student loan debt is at an all-time high, and people are ready to default. 72% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck was the statistic that Amy was and I were just talking about.
Mhm.
Those are very concerning, but, I like that
Yep.
more and more Americans are saving, so, that's positive.
Yeah. It is positive, but, unfortunately, all those things you said are true at the same time, right?
Right, right.
So it just depends what segment of the population that you're in. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you own an MSP, you should be in that first segment of saving more, right?
Right.
You are one of the fortunate people, and so uh, treat yourself that way.
Yeah, I've got a podcast coming up where I'm gonna interview a financial advisor talking about leaving your legacy, and,
Mm.
I don't wanna get us too far off topic, but along these lines, there Amy, you've seen them too. I can't tell you, I've met with countless MSP business owners where they're not putting money away. They don't have a 401k or any kind of retirement or severance, or pension program put together for themselves. But, "Oh, my when I sell my MSP one day, that's gonna be my retirement." It's like, well, I disagree with that strategy, and more and more people, are looking to sell their MSP, but I think at the same time, you could look at that as a part of your retirement, but there's no reason why you can't be saving like Amy and I are talking about as well. So,
Yeah.
really good plans that you should look into, but we're
Yep.
gonna talk more about that in a future program.
Yeah. I had a plan. We used a simple in my business, so we had
Mm.
a simple retirement plan. That's the official name of it, by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with them. um, it's a 401k for smaller businesses because the actual 401ks require an administrator and it has a little bit of overhead with it, whereas the simple IRA programs don't. And all the employees can participate, and we did a share, that they contribute. So if they participated, the company kicked in some percentage for that as well. And I did that for myself too. All of your You shouldn't be betting your retirement on a single event of selling your business.
Right.
Y- Yeah, it may be a big event. As I was saving along, right? Some things in cash, I would, put extra cash away. Part of it was in that simple, and then part of it was the sale of the business, and when those numbers were all inching their way up, and then one day my financial advisor said, I think you're there. You could sell your business and you'd meet your retirement goals. And I was taken aback. And so I went and got another financial advisor and I said, just to check, like, like,
No,
like,
that's
is this,
smart.
is this real? And that person came up with the same numbers. And so, all right, must be real. And so then that's how I knew it was time for me to move forward and, make that exit and fully fund my retirement plan. So you can make the dream happen, everybody. You can make that happen. But you can't make it happen if you put all your eggs in a single basket.
Yeah. 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 And the one last thing I'll say, there seems to be a trend lately. There were two MSP business owners that reached out to me in the past couple weeks. And a lot of people always want to know, hey, interested in, is this a good time for me to sell my business? It's okay. Well, let's take a look at your financials and I'll do a valuation and give them a range of what I think the business is worth. And in both cases, Amy, the business was not worth anything close what they thought it was. Now they had a big book of business and they were both $3 million plus. One was a true MSSP, okay? Very sexy business on the surface, but then when you dig into the financials, they were losing money. And then
Mm.
you even can play with the ad backs a little bit to make the adjusted, uh, earnings look a little bit better, and
Right?
that didn't help. So, like
Mm.
like it should or like it normally does. So my advice to both of them is like, now's not a good time to sell your business. You need to get your house in order, make things more profitable, cut
Yeah.
some expenses and focus on growth, and, let's take a look at this 6 months from now. We gotta get this turned around, and the market will be a lot rosier for you if you've got an asset that's making money, not losing money. So that's what they're going to work on. But
There's no reason for anyone in this industry to be losing money. Unfortunately, it's quite common that they do,
yep,
or they have very low profit. Not very much is bottom line. You should have 20% plus hitting that bottom line.
mm,
Then you might be ready. Your business has reached a maturity level where you can potentially sell it. But just because your business is there doesn't mean your retirement plan is there. So you really have to view this all from a very big picture point of view.
yep, yep, exactly. I agree.
Hurts my heart when I hear $3 million business is losing money.
Right.
That's like,
It again was very sexy on the outside, and then as we kind of dug into the financials, it was like, ooh, okay, here's some advice. We gotta turn this around. But, it's very fixable for sure. All right, well, are you up to anything else here the rest of the quarter? We're kind of, mid-June timeframe, winding down in Q2, and anything gearing up for the rest of this month or early next?
well, as I told you, I am reserving my summer for boating. So I'm planning to be out on the boat at anchor someplace for
Mhm.
almost the entire month of July. And so that's what I'm gearing up for. I'm gearing up for some well-earned relaxation. But I'll be taking the mini with me so we can still record the podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that you've got the Starlink, Mini, you can do that. You
Yeah, you just might hear some loons calling in the background, but
Yeah, the quality is perfect. I don't notice any difference at all. It's quality is
fantastic.
great.
Good.
So good news. All right, well, I've got an event coming up at the end of this month, in Omaha, Nebraska, the 2-day mastermind event, the end of June, and then I think the next event that I'm speaking at isn't until it's Exchange, I think, out in Denver, um, in August. So, like you, I'm trying to kinda leave this summer open for fun and
Right.
relaxation and just just enjoy, the summer with the family. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's important, you gotta take that time, and I know I've mentioned this before in my business, we used to do those summer Fridays
Yeah,
so that my staff could take the time too, because study after study after study shows that if you give people time off and you provide those kind of rewards, they're gonna be more productive and they will stay with you longer too.
right. Yep, I agree. I agree. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, great seeing you as always. Thanks for sharing today, and I s- w- we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll see everybody next time on the SMB Community Podcast.
See you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this interesting or fun, please subscribe. share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. We would love to hear from you, so reach out anytime on the website at smbcommunitypodcast.com.